All right, the final answer to number 23 was root 19. We took the square root of both sides. We said x is going to be equal to root 19. There were no perfect square factors besides 1, and so we get to leave that as the square root of 19. My Apple Pencil disconnected somehow, and so it gave me a cough break. So here we are. We're going strong. All right, so I've got, this next one, I've got a right triangle. So here's A, B, and C. Of course, my answer should be less than 11. So I'm going to go 5 squared plus x squared equals 11 squared. Again, we're trying to use that calculator a lot more this unit and like quickly. This becomes fast, so x ends up being equal to, you're going to type that in, you're going to do 11 squared, that entire expression. So it's going to be 11 squared minus 5 squared, which is going to be the square root of 96 for x. Why does that simplify? Because there's a perfect square that goes into it. It's going to be 16 times 6. Of course, when I do 16 times 6, that is going to give me 4 root 6. Final answer would be 4 root 6. A perfect square factor. So 4 root 6 is my final answer. Type that in and make sure that it is less than 11, which it is. All right, the next section, classify the triangle as acute, right, or obtuse. So this is the converse of the Pythagorean Theorem. The Pythagorean Theorem says if it's a right triangle, then a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So the converse of that, if q then p, would say if a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, then it's a right triangle. Which means that there's going to be options where a squared plus b squared is bigger than c squared and where a squared plus b squared is smaller than c squared. So let's write out those rules real quick. If a squared plus b squared is equal to exactly c squared, then boom, it's a right triangle. Well, what are the other two options? Well, what if a squared plus b squared is less than c squared, meaning c is greater? That is going to be obtuse. We did that little demonstration with our arms in class where we opened up that 90-degree angle a little bit more, and that allowed what was the hypotenuse to get larger, and then c squared was larger. Okay, so if it's the other way, the only other option is a squared plus b squared is bigger than c squared. So we took that right angle and we made it smaller, we made it acute, and what happened, our c value got smaller, and this would be an acute triangle. Okay, so the trick here is to make sure that you're plugging in the correct number. So this is kind of like, we used to give like really quick sketches of triangles, and we would, I said it really doesn't matter what the triangle looks like. This allows you to actually give a way more accurate picture. You should be able to look at 5, 7, and 11 and tell if it's acute, right, or obtuse. So what you need to do, though, is label which one is A, B, and C. It doesn't matter which one is A and B, but the C has to be the largest one. Okay, it's not always listed last. They might list it first. So we're going to plug that into a squared plus b squared. I'm going to put a box there because I don't know if it's going to be equal or less than or greater than. And I'm going to make this one my a and this one my b. So I'm going to go 5 squared plus 7 squared. And I'm going to compare that sum to 11 squared. What is 5 squared plus 7 squared? 5 squared plus 7 squared is going to be, that's going to be 25 plus 49. So 25 plus 49, you could type that into your calculator, especially if you have a scientific calculator. It's way easier. That's 74. What is 11 squared? 121. So what was greater? The c squared was greater, which means, looking at our rules, that means that this triangle must be obtuse. So I'd be able to draw that triangle if I were sketching it. That would give me an obtuse triangle. Okay, let's do that again, but now with 18, 14, and 10. What does the C have to be? Has to be the 18 because it's the biggest. And then I'm going to see how that compares to a squared plus b squared and see the relationship. So let's plug it in. That is going to be 14 squared plus 10 squared. Let's see how that compares to 18 squared. So 14 squared is 196. 10 squared is 100. So that is 296 for the sum of a squared and b squared. And then 18 squared is 324. So which side is greater? The c squared is greater, so that triangle is also obtuse. Okay. Both of those were obtuse. 5 squared plus 7 squared was less than 121, and 14 squared plus 10 squared was less than 324. And so if it were the other way, it would have been acute, and then if it was equal, of course, it would be a right triangle. All right, let's do a few of these. Solve for the missing lengths in the special right triangles. So this is interesting. They tell us in the directions that they're special right triangles. How would you know if not? You would pay attention to the angles. What are our special right triangles? We have 45, 45, 90 triangles, and then we have 30, 60, 90 triangles. So if they didn't tell us that in the directions already, we would want to make sure that we paid attention to those angles, and we're going to leave these in simplest radical form. And so I'm going to do our 45, 45, 90. Our 45, 45, 90 is our twin triangle. Of course, whenever you have two 45-degree angles, that means that the legs are going to be congruent. So these two legs are congruent. So immediately I know that the y value is going to be 10. Y is 10 because both of those are 10. And then my hypotenuse is going to be, you multiply, it's x root 2, or leg root 2 for the hypotenuse. So that is going to make this one 10 times the square root of 2. We are getting larger, so we're going to multiply by root 2. So that makes this 10 root 2. 10 root 2 for my hypotenuse. If we were going from a hypotenuse to a leg, then we would divide by root 2. Those are our special right triangle rules. You could use Pythagorean Theorem on a 45, 45, 90. You could have done 10 squared plus 10 squared equals x squared. That would give you the square root of 200, which would simplify to 10 root 2. This just makes it faster. Okay, so let's color code that again. This is a 45, 45, 90. So there are my legs that are congruent. So this is 2 root 2. So this one is also going to be 2 root 2. N is 2 root 2. What is my hypotenuse going to be? My hypotenuse, I'm getting bigger, so I'm going to multiply by root 2. Whenever you have 2 root 2 times another root 2, that's going to become 2 root 4. What is the square root of 4? 2 wholes, and then 2 times 2 is 4. So I know that's a lot of work, but my total for my hypotenuse is 4. All right, now this one goes reverse. It gives you the hypotenuse, and it wants us to find the legs. So here is my N is a leg, and it matches M as a leg as well. And so I'm going to be going from my hypotenuse to a leg. So I'm going to take 7 root 2, and I'm going to take 7 root 2, and I'm going to divide by root 2. Well, root 2 divided by root 2 cancels out, and so both of my legs are just simply going to be 7. So this leg is 7, and then this leg is 7. We got lucky on that problem, and the root 2's canceled out. On number 28, unfortunately, we did not get as lucky. It gives me a whole number, so we've got our legs, and we've got a whole number for the hypotenuse. So again, same process. We're going to divide by the square root of 2, but watch what happens. 8 divided by root 2, that is the expression, but that is not in simplest radical form. We are not able to leave a radical in the denominator in simplest radical form. So we're going to have to rationalize that denominator. It becomes 8 root 2 over root 4. What is the square root of 4? 2 wholes. And then 8 divided by 2 is going to simplify to 4 root 2. So each of these legs is going to be 4 root 2. This leg is 4 root 2. This leg is 4 root 2. So x and y are 4 root 2. Many of you probably remember the shortcut. Y'all caught on really, really fast to that. Whenever you have a 45, 45, 90 triangle and the hypotenuse is a whole number, the legs are going to be half of that whole number times the square root of 2. So like, just as an example, if that hypotenuse was 10, the legs would be 5 root 2. If that hypotenuse was 100, the legs would be 50 root 2. So many of you caught on to that. All right, so let's do our 30, 60, 90 triangles. 30, 60, 90 was a different set of shortcuts and rules than our 45, 45, 90. And when we did this, we color-coded. This video is really long because it took me so long to color code, but I think it was worth our time. The short leg is going to be the yellow one in this picture. I'm going to color code the long leg is going to be the M, and then the hypotenuse is going to be our 8. So I'm going to label that real quick. This is our short leg. This is our long leg. This is going to be our hypotenuse. Okay? So what do we currently have? We have our hypotenuse. So how do you go from the hypotenuse back to the short leg? We're going to divide by 2. Remember that we have these rules. You do need to know these rules for the test. The rule is we have the short leg. The long leg is equal to the short leg times the square root of, so let me write this out. The long leg is going to be equal to the short leg times the square root of 3, whereas the hypotenuse is going to be equal to the short leg times 2, or 2 times the short leg. So 8 divided by 2 gives me 4. So my short leg, N, is 4. So how do I get to my long leg? I'm going to multiply 4 times the square root of 3. 4 times the square root of 3 is just simply going to be 4 root 3. So my final answer for my long leg is 4 root 3. So I'm going to do that right here. That would be 4 root 3. Okay, let's do that again, and I'm going to color code. Y'all know I love color coding these. It just helps my brain. So here's my short leg. How do I know that that's the short leg? Because this must be 30, because this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. You could use the triangle angle sum theorem to find that if you needed to, but this is 30 degrees. Okay, so that's my short leg. I've got my short leg is V. We've got our long leg is given. It's 7 root 3, and then we've got our hypotenuse. Our hypotenuse is U. So we're looking for our short leg, we're looking for our hypotenuse, and we're given our long leg. So to go from the long leg to the short leg, you're going to divide by root 3. Why do I divide by root 3? Because I'm getting smaller. So I don't multiply by root 3, I divide by root 3 going from blue to yellow. Thankfully, the root 3's cancel out on this problem. Good, that's 7. If that's 7, to get to the hypotenuse, we're getting bigger. So we're going to do 7 times whole number 2. That gives me 14. So my yellow piece is going to be 7. That's my short leg, which was V. My hypotenuse is going to be 14. So that one did not have numbers that were too terrible to work with. Let's do the next 3, and then we'll start a new video. Here is our hypotenuse, it's X. Here is our short leg, it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle. There's the 30. And then here is our long leg. It's given, it's 3. So to go from our long leg to our short leg, we are going to divide by the square root of 3. So that's 3 over root 3. Unfortunately, there's nothing to cancel that out with, so I'm going to have to rationalize the denominator. So I multiply by root 3 over 3. That gives me 3 root 3 over root 9, which is 3. The 3's cancel out. And then my radical is just going to be the square root of 3. Square root of 3 is what y is. Okay? How do I go from my square root of 3 to my hypotenuse? How do I go from yellow to pink? From yellow to pink, we're getting bigger, and I'm going to double it. So I'm going to go root 3 times 2 wholes. What is root 3 times 2 wholes? Root 3 times 2 wholes is going to be 2 root 3. So my hypotenuse is going to be equal to 2 root 3. So that one was harder than the previous ones that I've done, just because there are more radical operations in it than before. All right, number 32. Number 32, if you had forgot your 30, 60, 90 rules, you would not be able to use Pythagorean Theorem on this, simply because we only have 1 out of the 3 pieces. Now, eventually you'll learn trig, and you could do trig instead, but because we want this in simplest radical form, we want to learn these rules to make this really fast. So there's our short leg. The short leg is given at 6. We're trying to find our long leg, and we're also trying to find our hypotenuse. So I'm going to label this. This is my short leg, this is my long leg, and this is my hypotenuse. Okay, so we have the 6. So how do we get to the hypotenuse? We double it. 6 times 2 gives me 12 wholes. So my hypotenuse is going to be 12, so x is 12. There's my hypotenuse. Okay, how do I find my other piece? I'm also looking for my long leg, so I need to go get it. I'm going from my short leg to my long leg. So I like to draw those arrows. I'm getting bigger, so that reminds me I'm going to take 6, and I'm going to multiply by root 3, not divide by root 3. So what is 6 times root 3? That is simply going to simplify to 6 root 3. That is fully simplified. So that is 6 root 3. All right, last one for this video, number 33. I have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. I always start with that. That has to be 30, so that's V. I have my long leg is given. It's 6. And then I have my hypotenuse, which is U. So we're going to have to go from blue to yellow and then from yellow to blue. So how do I go from blue to yellow? This is the long leg. This is the short leg. So I know that the radical I'm working with is root 3. How do I know if I'm multiplying or dividing? You just look if it's getting bigger or smaller. I am dividing because it's getting smaller. Unfortunately, this is where I'm going to have to simplify the radical. So when I say simplify, I should say rationalize. So I'm going to have to multiply by root 3 over root 3 to get that radical out of the denominator. That becomes 6 root 3 over root 9. We know that the square root of 9 is 3 wholes. 6 divided by 3 gives me 2 root 3. So what is my yellow piece? My yellow piece, my short leg, is going to be 2 root 3. 2 root 3. If that is 2 root 3, that's my short leg. How do I go to my hypotenuse? I know that I'm going to be working with either multiplying or dividing by 2. Since I'm getting bigger, I'm going to be multiplying by 2. So this is going to be 2 root 3 times 2. That becomes 4 root 3 total. So my pink piece is going to be 4 root 3 is my hypotenuse. All right, I'm going to make a video for these last 4 next.